and Services Committee. Are there any apologies?
Yep, we've got apologies from Councillor Brian Wildman and from Councillor Emma Cornish.
Brian.
I said Brian.
Are there any comments on the minutes or errors in them? No? So someone will move them then. Seconded. Those in favour? Thank you. I've missed declarations of interest out, so I better see if there is any. Anyone got any declarations of interest? No. Public forum. No one present, and there's no one online, is there?
Nobody's registered to speak.
Right, okay. Item 6, exclusion of the public. There is just one item at the end of the agenda for exclusion, which is a staffing item. Okay. Item 7, year-end update. Now, do we want to take A, B, C and D all together, or do we want to take them separately?
Talking around, perhaps, cover them all.
Well, okay. Do you want to make any comments on any of them, Gina?
I will do, just to say, we're actually late in completing the year end. Well, a couple of weeks later than usual. But the overall surplus, I was thinking was going to be in excess of 100,000, but it ended up being around 77. So basically what I've done is I've set out budgets that I think need to be carried forward. Some need to be carried for certain reasons, some are just recommendations. I've also looked at earmark reserves and how much surplus we already had in general reserves, and I've tried to come up with a plan of where to put the money for the start of the year. So, if anyone's had a chance to look at the figures.
A few questions, yeah. So I think I've got the audit trail, or the accounting trail, should I say, right, in terms of going from one batch to another. And I understand your paper 7C, which obviously then goes into the various variances. I think there were no particular surprises in there, because obviously we've been talking about it as we go along through the year. There's one factual thing you might want to, the way you've written it, neighbourhood plan. There you go, number 20, that's one caught my eye. You've almost got, that opening sentence is like the wrong way round in a way, as in it's more because we were told to do extra studies, then we went to locality for the extra funds. But the way that's written, it's like we got some money, so we chose to spend it. But we had to spend it on those reports. So it's almost like if you want to change that sentence round.
Yeah. It was also because the packages, I mean, obviously for the design code, if we hadn't got won that package, we wouldn't have done that. So,
yeah.
Or we may have had to pay for it.
But it was recommended you should do it because it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So same with the master plan and stuff like that, with the other income stuff. But other than that, I think it's one of those ones. It brings out the fact that there's obviously a bunch of things which were planned across a whole portfolio of areas, which didn't take place for a variety of reasons. So I suppose it's a case of, you know, where we said we'll roll forward a budget because we didn't spend it on repairs and maintenance, we didn't spend it on this or some kit or whatever. It's just making sure that we then actually do it now. Because I could tell from your opening bit here about we had 178,000 brought forward from last year. So again, presumably that was done, and then we ended up with our 70-odd thousand of net surplus. So So I guess what we need really is to make sure we are aware, when you look at 7D, and you see that bunch of costs at the top there, which are the ones that are going to be all rolled forward, it's, we're absolutely happy we're going to spend those, we've got plans for them properly, and the people responsible for those areas know they're going to spend it and do it. Otherwise, we're just rolling surplus on surplus on surplus, which is a nice position to be in, but that's not what the taxpayer pays for. The only other thing I had was the fact that trying to get what the final position is on reserve. I know it feeds into item 10 more than anything else, because we've got a bit of extra preset money as well, haven't we? Another 28,000, I think it is. So almost getting we've got extra money for that, so it all feeds into the extra amounts to spend in the budget this year. So, but other than that, I could follow the trail. I could see where we'd underspent in the various places. As I say, there are no particular surprises. It's just, let's make sure we've got plans and we can monitor as a committee that it's being spent.
Just before we move on from what you've just said, David, because you actually mentioned, I think it were item 20, weren't it, where neighbourhood plan?
Yeah.
Which basically, this is sort of suggesting that we won't be getting any more external funding. And I'm mindful that there is a zero reserve for the neighbourhood plan. And I don't want us to get in a position like, neighbourhood plan's been going on since 2016. It's getting nearer and nearer coming to an end. I think for all concerned and the residents out there as well, it needs to come to an end sooner rather than later if it can. Yeah. I wouldn't want it to have any delays. So in case when it's gone to localities now or wherever it may go in future, someone turns around and says, well, you've missed this and you've missed this and it needs doing, I won't want us to be in a position where we don't have enough finances to finish it. And I haven't mentioned this to anyone. I haven't spoken to Glenda or Howard about it at all, actually. And I am mindful to move that we put £5,000 into an earmarked reserve for this in case it's needed. If it's not needed, it'll just get moved back into the general reserves. Yeah. So I'll move that we put 5,000 in there, because if something crops up and it's between meetings, say it happened tomorrow, it'd be a month before we had a meeting to authorise the money. And I don't want that to happen. It's got so near to end now, it does not want holding back. So I'll move that we put that £5,000 in the earmark reserve.
I would definitely support that, and I'll second that. I think you're right. In terms of what's left to do, everything's coming to a close in terms of the reports we're doing for the main thing. But when localities do their health check, they might say you need a bit extra here, a bit there, whatever. Do a bit of extra work. We might get Kirkwells. They might be able to do it quickly, or it might need some extra input. So yeah, I think a good 5,000 would do it. We know as well we've got the community development reserve as well, which is a sort of flexible fund. So I'd hope, if we did need more than 5, which is unlikely, then we can do that. And then of course it goes off to PBC to look at, and then it'll come back for a review and whatever. So yeah, I'd second that.
Is everyone okay with that course of action?
That I assume is in addition to the 6,000.
Yes.
Making it 11,000 and things, right?
Yeah. We spent so much on it now. Both in time, people's time and money. It would be foolish to hold it up at this stage.
Not disagree. Yeah,
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, I think overall, section 7, papers for 7 are good. Do we note them, or do we?
I think Howard wants to comment.
I just want to. I mean, generally, a lot of the reasons that money wasn't spent were down to the favourite circumstances beyond our control,
Well,
which hopefully we're not going to come across again. But there are a couple of things that we need to make sure that we do. And that's the 16 and 17, the bush shelters and the benches. Because on them both it says we've not established a full repair and maintenance programme. And I think that's what well, first of all, we need to do a condition survey to see which ones need, I was going to say money spending up, need repairing and bringing up to standard on both benches and bush shelters. Although I don't know whether it was in here, but I know I've read, in looking through all the papers, and I can't remember where it was, that we've gained, our number of benches have about doubled. Now, whether that's because the ones in Alkin Courts have now been added to it and in play areas, I don't know, but they've, again, from memory, we had on the books, as it were, 73 or 4, and it's now, might be 170, I can't remember the figure, but other than that, is it 100, right?
Yeah, I got a new updated list from Eugene. So, to make sure that they were all on the insurance schedule as well, and that, yes.
But that's the sort of thing that directly impacts upon people when they're waiting for a bus or sitting on a bench outside the library or the church when they've walked up the hill. So we do need to get on top of those. But other than that, I'm quite happy to move second or whatever we're doing on these note. Well, it doesn't say note or decision required, so I assume we just note.
Well, I would like a proposer and a seconder just to say that you're happy with where I want to put things.
Especially on 7C, it's a requirement, isn't it, for us to explain the variances.
Yes.
So it's almost like we as a committee should say, yes, we are happy with the recommendations. I mean, I'll propose 7C, I'll propose the whole lot if you want.
Second, yeah.
On 16 and 17 that Howard's mentioned, and both of them fall into this category really, at the end of this year, at the end of this financial year, our tenders are up for renewal for the grounds maintenance and the bush shelters and the benches, etc. So within the next couple of months over this summer, we're going to have to be deciding what we want in the tender for the next one, if we want to do any changes to it. And both 16 and 17, being the bush shelters and the benches, might fall into the category where we need to be doing something different to what we're doing, so it needs taking account of when we go out to tender next time.
I think one of the lessons to learn from the last lot of tenders is don't put all your eggs in one basket, which I think we did a bit for the right reasons, because we the deal was considerably under adding up individuals. But I think we need to be aware this time that perhaps that wasn't the way to say right reasons, but circumstances have, I think, proved that in one or two areas it wasn't.
And we also need to consider if we want to bring some of it in-house as well, even. So it's been moved and seconded for all of them. So those in favour, thank you. Right. Item 8, insurance premium.
Yeah, so this is just basically to say that we have made some additions. We're still in a 3-year contract, which actually ends in the end of March 2023. So we've got another year left of that, which means the underlying rates remain the same, just any additions that go in, and they do put a general 3% lift on buildings and contents and any items that you insure separately. So we've added various new equipment that we've bought for the landsmen. Again, we've taken some bush shelters off because they were still on from the ones that we've transferred from along the main strip. Yeah, the benches have increased substantially, so we need to make sure that they were on the insurance schedule. So all this has basically led to an increase, which was, I think the general increase was about, I think it's about 5% on what was there before, but the agreed budget was insufficient to cover it. So obviously, as I've put in my report, that I have included it in the budget amendments in section 9.
Any comments?
I'm happy to move that we accept that and pay. I think part of the problem as well is it's a bit of a specialist market, so it's not as if you can choose from. It's not like insuring your car or your house where you've got everybody to sort of try out. It tends to be, I don't know, 3 or 4 specialist ones, and the same names come round again because they're a bit cheaper this year. And
Yeah, you're right. There's only 3 or 4 that do it, but I have put a reminder in my calendar for around January time to do a full comparison and to make sure that we are going with the best value.
Yeah, I think next time round we do need to compare prices, don't we, to do it properly. I think we've got to do it.
No, I think it's a small enough increase, and as you say, part of it's inflation and part of it is change of scope of the things we've got. So,
Okay, so do we accept that report? Yeah.
yeah.
Item 9, budget amendment.
All right, so these are basically to cover mainly things that have come up since the budget was agreed initially to do the precept. Obviously, different decisions have been made, and the insurance premium went up. There's also been increases in salary. So they have all been reflected in these amendments, which does take the additional precept that we were going to receive to take into account increases in years 2 and 3 of the 3-year budget. It just means that we'll put slightly less into reserves this year because it'll go into the revenue budget for this year.
I mean, in terms of the numbers, as you say, 27,000 of tweaks here and there. I'm sure there's good logic behind every single one of them, and a good line-by-line review is the sort of thing that that you've done, which is excellent. I noticed the big one, of course, is still the town hall and the roof and the borrowings associated with that. So, do we have a timing for? I know we've got the town hall maintenance coming later, haven't we? But do we have a timing when we might start to crystallise quotes, etc.?
We are still waiting for some to get back to us, so I do need to chase people on that. Yeah, they seem to be hard to track down, these people.
But no, I note also, of course, we've got the precept from 645 up to 674, so that's good. You've allocated that across appropriate reserves. whether they're the right places, or we could use the neighbourhood plan one as a bit, who knows, but that's one to bear in mind. Have we got the 674, has that arrived?
Yes.
In our bank account? Right, good, okay. Oh, so we're rolling in money then.
Yeah, they haven't run off with it.
In all the right bank accounts that are earning us huge amounts of interest.
So I assume that's because either there's a few newer houses been occupied, or the collection rate was better than they thought, so that our base rate was slightly better than went in the calculations. Although 29,000 is not an awful lot, but it's better in our pocket than
Well, it's better than being 29,000.
the other way, yes.
Now, we've had no guidance as to why it's gone up. It obviously went from 620 odd up to 640 odd, and now it's gone up to 670 odd. There was that small increase in the overall tax base for here compared to overall Pendle, so we did better in terms of that. New houses, less houses and support, etc. So, as you say, let's take the money and use it wisely.
So, are there any more questions on item 9?
I'll move the approval of the amendments of the night.
Been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 10, financial update.
Right, so I will apologise for this, as it's only down to the 10th of April, because we finished the year end a bit later. We were later in rolling forward, so there was a lot to put in, and Katie's trying to train Jack from Tax Assist, because he is covering while she's on holiday, so it just meant that they couldn't get through all the transactions. So
there's nothing fundamental happened that we should be aware of between the 10th of April and now.
no. Oh, we got the preset.
We roll forward to budget office lot there, didn't we? Right. Oh, I've got no questions.
Anyone else any questions? No? So can we approve that report then? Yeah.
I'll second them.
Those in favour? Item 11, vehicle provision update.
Right. So previously we had agreed that we should provide a van for the lensmen, so that they could carry more materials, etc., to the jobs that they need to do. We'd allowed a budget for up to £40,000 for that to be taken out of the year-end surplus. Now, when we've actually come to look at it, we were looking at electric vehicles, fully electric vehicles, which is what members had expressed that they wanted to go with. However, when we've actually looked into the ranges of the vehicles and that kind of thing, it seemed to pose a bit of a problem. The majority of vehicles that were fully electric only had a range of 90 miles. Now, we have, for instance, we've got a hire company that we use for certain, like Spider equipment, that kind of thing. They've got one in Blackburn and they've got one in Preston. Now, if the lensman needed to go to Preston to pick up said equipment, then I don't know if they'll get back. Yeah, or if the... Yeah, well, yes. So, I mean, we did look at, there were others with better ranges, however, they took longer to charge, so you're looking at 24 hours to charge then, so that makes it even worse. So I think what I'm recommending to do is to go, rather than go with a fully electric vehicle, to go with a hybrid, because they do hybrid vans. So that was basically what. Well, the hybrid is obviously uses electric first, but then you do have the backup of actually putting fuel in it to get where you need to go, if that's the case. So it just gives us a little bit more flexibility than a fully electric. Obviously with a view to getting a fully electric vehicle when the technology's caught up a bit and the ranges are better and the charging times are quicker and that kind of thing.
Howard?
Yeah, it's a bit awkward, isn't it? Because to get one that's got enough oomph in the batteries become a bit heavier.
And expensive.
So you might go from 90 miles to 100 miles, but you're in this sort of chasing your tail. I know when I had a quick look after we talked about it at the last meeting, and even popular make, the big makes, your Fords and you only come anywhere near it with charging it for not a ridiculous amount of time, but an amount of time that would cut into somebody's working day. So I think, presumably this should be, I forget what they call the other ones, not a self-charging hybrid, a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah, plug-in hybrid.
Yeah, which I think is it's the halfway. It's either that or we find one that runs on hydrogen. I noticed on the local news that either Port Sunlight or Ellesmere Port is going all hydrogen. But I think before we can bank on that, we better just bung in a few gallons of petrol in it and plug it in to charge it up. Move we go for that.
I thought about it when Gina said to me, she said it only has a range of 90 miles, and then I thought, well, I'm fairly certain, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, that for the plants this year, for going in bloom and hanging baskets, etc., I think we've got them from somewhere around Preston, haven't we? Well, if we have to go and pick them up, by the time you've got there and got back, there ain't a great deal of your 90 mile left, is there? And you've still got the rest of your day job to do. So it's going to be tight, isn't it? So I think a plug-in hybrid does have the advantage of when the electric's done, you can still fill your tank up and use petrol, can't you?
Yeah, I had a plug-in hybrid, Golf actually, and it had a range on electric of about 25 to 30 miles, which is perfect for driving around town, going to council meetings or whatever it might be, or go to the shops. But then as soon as you hit the motorway and you get above a certain speed, the electricity cut out anyway. So I'd drive to Manchester on petrol, and then I'd plug it in at work, and then it would be charged up quite comfortably because it didn't take that long, just on an ordinary 13 amp plug. So it was good and flexible, and yet you felt you were doing your bit when you only had short journeys. Yeah. So I think it's a good halfway house, I agree. So yeah, I'll second it then, that's hard.
Okay, those in favour? Thank you. Item 12, dog control public space protection order consultation. Do you want to go first, Howard?
Well, yeah, there are, hang on, let me find, when I looked at this yesterday, I started, I think the phrase is going down rabbit holes, because that led to, but there are, there is one error on it in the schedule that I came across, and that's map 29, the Waterside Senior Play Area, which doesn't exist anymore, does it? Because we moved the equipment
them into one, didn't we?
all into one. I also, for a moment, didn't think the on the list that's on the website, it has the Viverbridge Mugger as being separate, but in the one they did for the parks, it's included in there, so it's covered under the one from whenever it was, January or whatever. And the other, well, I think the King George V playing field one, I was a bit looking at it slightly more in the round. I think, because I thought the part at the top ought to be covered with, it was the former football field that ought to be covered in terms of no dog fouling, but I think, again, that's in the, well, I don't think it is. So I think, you know, that we could maybe ask them if that's covered in the sports ground bit, or has it, because it's not now a sports ground, been sort of missed out in that they don't think it's a park, and they don't, because on the park, on the schedule from the beginning of the year, it just says the play area and the mugger, yeah, so that means that the whole area at the top doesn't appear to be covered.
The play area will just be the bit with the play equipment, won't it?
Yeah, well, it is, yeah.
I think you should extend it, you're right, to the top stuff.
Yeah.
People do play up there, have to play them.
Yeah. Well, that used to be the. Well, I mean, people do walk the dogs there. I've seen them doing it.
Yeah.
It wants to encompass all the lot up to the public footpath at the top, doesn't it?
Yes.
All
yes. Yeah. As I say, there's another one for sports fields which has Holt House and goodness knows where in it. But I couldn't. I mean, it might be, but I was beginning to get a bit cross-eyed by then, going from website or map to map, and some of the maps are not that modern, shall we say.
And then to summarise that, on the water side, as you said, we move the equipment from one to the other. Should we merge those two maps?
I think it should.
Water side play area?
Yes, I think it should. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just sending a list of comments, aren't we? If we have it.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a good idea, and you know, it's generally good that it's being done. But if they don't keep up with the changes, you're going to get some barrack room lawyer who gets fines. We don't. There's enough to do that without it. And the other thing that I noticed whilst looking at these protection orders, and I don't know when it comes up for renewal, is that the no drinking in the street one still appears to be live, and I thought that had sort of gone by the board, because originally when it was introduced, that was before PSPOs. But there is a map, which is plan number 3, which shows it in its original form from Linden Road up to 50 metres either side of the centre of the A56, and it goes up to Carry Lane, sorry, yeah. So it covers the Legion as well. But it'd be interesting to know whether that was... Looking at the website, it appears to be in...
What day did it have on it? Because they can only be in force for 3 years without being extended, can't they?
That's what I couldn't find the original. But maybe when we do it, we can ask about that, because that may cover some of the problems that have been had in the town centre and other is that if that was enforced, because I know going back before we took over the Blues and the thing was in operation, people further up used to complain that they couldn't drink outside, but you could drink outside the Muni and the venue and everywhere.
I thought all the old orders that were in place died a death when public space protection orders came in. So is it still live, that one?
All I am going off is the layout of the schedule and the way it says plan this, that and the other is exactly the same as the ones that they are working through now. Now, maybe this is in there and they haven't.
I think it still mentions it on the website though, doesn't it? The drinking one, I think it's still,
Found, but there's no point in having it if you don't enforce it.
No. Oh, no.
One extra thing that came up when the last set of PSPOs were discussed was the thing about signage and publicity, etc. So given that we're responsible for all these sorts of parks, they're not Pendle ones, so we've got to think about signage. Just so again, it's visible.
Well,
I think the play areas do say no. The ones I've seen all say no dogs, but
It might be job for length.
might be worth to just go around and check them.
one thing that does come to mind with the notices, and I mentioned it to you when we were out and about last week, some of the notices are about, they're about that size, they're about A4. And I don't know whether you've had a good look at them or not, but unless you get right up to them, the text is no bigger than that. Well, no, and I don't think we're warning people well enough when it's on such a small sign. Now, if these signs do have to be changed to something bigger, is it Pendle's responsibility to do it because they're enforcing and putting in place the PSPO, or is it ours? I don't know, on our parks.
I think it's ours.
The play areas are easy because it's no dogs with and the tennis courts and all that. You know. It's just no dogs in here. The more complicated one is the dog on the lead one, where you haven't got a hope. Well, you haven't got a hope of reading it unless you've got your magnifying glass and you've got to get to it first.
Yeah.
Climb across the thing, but I would have thought the other, again, the one for the drinking may not work because it doesn't say you're not allowed to drink outside.
Well, I know there's an expense to it, but I think we need to ask Pendle if they're going to put some bigger ones up to replace the ones they've put on park, and if they're not, I really think we need to do, because it won't cost that much to have them laminated.
One suggestion, seeing in various councils the idea of getting schools involved, especially if we're targeting play areas here. You know, you get the schools to design it. I was at Laneshire Bridge last night, and there was a thing there about speeding. So they contacted the school and said, could you design some posters, slow down, 30 miles an hour, whatever, look after me, look after the animals, etc., all that kind of thing. So they were just designing posters. So if we can link up with a school or two and say, could you do some ideas about how to use the play areas? Might make it a bit more personal, that's all. But obviously we have to give them a brief so they don't, you know, write everything in there, and they've got to put the following words on. Yeah. Yeah, you could have a lovely poster and then have keep your dog on a lead. Yeah.
But the specific one that I showed to Howard, which is right at the bottom of Alkincoats Park, in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
To be able to read it, it needs to be at least A3, not A4, doesn't it?
I'll bet.
Because a lot of people who just have reading glasses don't normally wear glasses. They take the dog a walk, well, they won't have their reading glasses on to take the dog a walk, so they can't see it anyway. But I think we need to do something about it. So amongst the comments, might it be an idea for Gina to ask the question when she gives the comments for the general public space protection order, if Pendle are going to provide some bigger signs from Park, and if they're not, I think we need to do.
Yeah.
Because we'll get, if someone gets a heavy fine on there, and they genuinely can't read it, and it starts going to court and all sorts, and saying you didn't notify us and properly as to this action being taken on here, we'll carry the can for it.
Yeah. And you think from an efficiency point of view, the same message could be on the same side. So if Pendle were doing something, they could do a bulk order of no smoking here, keep your dog on a lead, no fouling or whatever, and there'd just be standard signs, and we could piggyback off those perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, if Pendle were to get the signs for all the town and parishes, and then split the cost by how many they wanted, I think we could be quite happy to pay for ours.
Yeah.
But if they got them all together, and they're going to be mainly identical, aren't they?
Yeah, same messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem comes where it's the areas where it has to, like Halkin Courts, where it's only on that in the car park and the track, and that's where I think legally you have to have
we
the
need
map.
4, because we need one where you come off Parkway, you need one down at Bowling Green, and you need one at top and bottom at Park. So we'd need 4 anyway. Well, I don't think they'd be that expensive.
No.
So when you respond, will you ask the question, Gina, if they're going to provide any bigger ones, and if they're not, we'll have to look into it.
And we've got a playground budget, which might have some surplus here and there. We've got a playground EMR.
Well, I can't see them being that much
It
anyway.
wouldn't be much, no.
No.
Okay, so we just got our corrections to the maps.
Yep. Do we need to move and second that? Yeah.
Ask that all King George V
Be added.
be added,
The whole area.
and the
Waterside maps are merged together.
upper play area or large play area in the school. It's just waterside play area.
I think at the moment it's classed as senior and junior, isn't it? So we'll just make it just
well,
waterside play area,
Yeah, they listed as 2 separate ones, so if they wipe one out and make the other one just waterside and not senior or junior, and then it covers it, doesn't it?
Merge the maps together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That solves that. Well, actually, the maps are bigger now, isn't it? Because we took another piece of land off Pendle in order to move it across, didn't we? So the map will be wrong.
Down to where the roads are.
Didn't we take another piece of land outside it to make it bigger?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So map will be wrong as well. So all those in favour? Thank you. 13, town hall maintenance.
Right, we have had people in doing the air conditioners in the server room of the town hall. We've had to have them replaced because the old ones were past the best. So that's been done this week. Next week, hopefully, we'll have a scaffold going up at the front, and we're going to have the roof work done to the guttering at the front. Once that has been completed, then Spain's can then organise to come and do the other 2 rooms and finish refurbing those. So that's Eugene's old office and the one next to the committee room. The town hall clock is currently 5 minutes adrift. So yeah, we need to needs a little bit more weight on it, I think, in order to keep the right time. So we need to be looking at that. We've also got, in the next couple of weeks, we have commissioned an access control system. We do have one at the moment, but it's just to get them so that all the fobs are programmed, and then it'd be one fob for everywhere, and each one programmed to let access to wherever it needs to go. So that should be happening within the next 2 weeks. So we will be asking for people to pop in with their fobs, and so we can reprogram them accordingly.
Yeah, from councillor's point of view, each councillor's fob will only open the doors that he needs essential access to. Other than that, whereas Gina's will open everything. Billy's will have to do, won't it? Because Billy's cleaning, she has to go in every room.
So housing pen or Together Housing and
Well,
Leisure Trust coming back in, and anybody else that's got one that's still
that
there.
could be a concern from an insurance point of view, because there's been Leisure Trust in this building, there's been Housing Pendle in this building, and there is probably some councillors who are no longer a councillor for whatever reason. Either they didn't get re-elected or they chose not to put up again, and they might still have an odd one that's inadvertently not been given back. So there is a concern that there could be several fobs that will open that front door scattered about Colne and Pendle. So I think it is better to have, a fresh start, because if someone got in, insurance wouldn't be happy if we didn't know who had fobs and who hadn't. And I believe these new fobs tell us who's gone in and where, or not? Or are they not that sophisticated, the ones you're getting?
I don't think we could get. I think we could get that in, but that would be at an extra cost, I think. But the system does have capabilities to do that.
Deactivate a lost fob. So if somebody lost it, or somebody draw something, or they got pointed out or whatever, and they disappeared off and didn't give it back.
I think possibly if you had that extra to the system, yes. Without it, then no, I don't think you can.
Once this exercise is done, there'll be less of them floating around that could gain access. I think this is the first step. And if it needs to go the extra step, do that down the line.
Yeah, if you think about it, when the fob system were put in here at first, there were probably anything between 50 and 100 people accessing this building at different times, because there were officers across in over bridge as well, and we haven't got 100 fobs, have we? No. I mean, the 17 councillors and 6 or 7 officers got one, but that is not 100 fobs, and we haven't got the balance. So they are somewhere.
In that drawing in the kitchen, that keeps logging exactly the stuff.
Well,
What to do with it. We've all got one.
so I think it would be wise to have them reprogrammed, because once we've done that, any old one won't open anything, will it? It'll just become obsolete. So I would be happy to go ahead with that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do we need a decision on anything on
No.
13? No? Right. Item 14. Items for a future month's agenda. Well, one thing that's going to have to come on a future month's agenda, it doesn't necessarily have to be the next one, I don't think we can do it for the next one, but I've already mentioned earlier tonight that we're going to have to make a decision as to what we want in the new tender document that goes out and what we don't want in it, and somewhere along the line that'll have to be penciled, probably to come to us twice, won't it? Because we'll want it to look at it and then sort of want it again to approve it, won't we, probably?
We have got a meeting with the contractor next Tuesday to talk through the current contract and what we feel are the issues, what's missing, etc., what needs to be taken out. Yeah.
Is there anything anyone else wants on a future agenda? No? No, okay. Item 15 is the date and time of the next meeting, which is Tuesday the 7th of June. And now can we move the exclusion of the public and turn off the video?